Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't have any academic background. So I do hope and apologize that my vocabulary sometimes might be difficult to understand and to, because I have not been educated in your Eric-centric system. But anyway, thank you very much for having me. As an Aboriginal person, I look at everything from my Aboriginal lens. And with that lens, I believe it entails every aspect of my life in which I see and I hear, especially see everything from my Aboriginal lens and from the wisdoms that have been left here for us from my ancestors. And I do try on a regular basis to do justice and to be just the right conduit to that knowledge. And in that knowledge, of course, also entails guiding principles. And one of the guiding principles that really governs our actions while we are here in our language is called Nedukulim. Don't ask me to spell it because I don't even know how to write in my own language. But Nedukulim is actually the guiding principle as to how you go through life. And it's very much helpful of guiding you and as we go about how we go about sustaining ourselves. By first of all reminding myself on a daily basis that I am just a very small part of this wonderful creation. And I see myself not as a superior being, but just a very small part and portion of it. But we do have something that no other creature has, and that's a cognitive mind. And with that cognitive mind, we can use it positively or negatively. And when I do invoke, when I do glance at my Aboriginal lens, I can see where we came from and how we got here. And unfortunately, what I am seeing is that we have allowed someone else of transforming that knowledge to be the arm of destruction. And we, the Aboriginal people, are trying to create awareness. Since we have this wonderful gift, why can't we use that wonderful gift of transforming that knowledge, not just to be the arm of destruction, but to be the arm of renewal. And with that, I can clearly see that I see a great need for us to identify and to see the kind of a transformative change that we need to look at seriously. But the transformative change now has to be done collectively. The Aboriginal people of this land, and all the people that came here, because each and every one of us have been given gifts, and for those gifts to be used for the benefit of all, and for those gifts to be used that mind we have will not allow us to compromise the ecological integrity of the area, because we can see clearly this is a very source of life in which we all depend upon. And I have to be very mindful that I don't have the right Our Mother Nature has rights. I have responsibility. And with that responsibility, I have to make sure that my actions hopefully will be seen, especially to the younger generations. To my actions will become examples for them to engage into this, engage into the sense of curiosity, in which they too will invoke that gift to constantly fine tune the actions from us, and also ensure that their actions will always be of a positive, will be positive. And the challenge that I see and the responsibility I have is not only through my actions to live in balance and harmony, but also the use and knowledge that has been passed on to me, and to help the young population, the younger people, to carry on some of the lessons that have been passed on to us. And those lessons, of course, were very clear that we can coexist with this beautiful creation of ours. And if we do it collectively, and if we do it with our heart, with love and compassion, we will always make a concerted effort that, being mindful that yes, none of us can live off the land anymore. We now have to engage into another economy, a wage economy. But majority of that cases, though, there's got to be some way in which we'll be extracting from our Mother Earth, and to be very mindful that in so doing, we cannot and should not compromise the ecological integrity of the area. Not only for us, but also be very mindful that our actions will transcend to the next 7 generations. So that responsibility then is quite huge and heavy. Therefore, I believe our actions, our knowledges that we currently have should be able to be passed on to the next generations, for them to be constantly critical in their thinking through our examples. Because the task that is before us, it's going to require a collective effort. And some of the challenges we are seeing today, when I see there is a great need for some kind of a transformative change. And hopefully, as we are engaging ourselves into this dialogue, or into these discussions, we can begin to see an urgency and a necessity, and how we should come together and start and to look at how do we transform this action in the future to be much more ecologically friendly, ecologically sustainable than what we currently have been. So by constantly reflecting, you're always looking and checking where you come from and why you are here. And to use those lessons learned, not only to prepare the next 7 generations, but also to help me as individually what my responsibilities are. Because the problems that we are currently facing, I believe, are not regional, are not national, but very much global. Because the essence of life, which is air, water, and soil, cannot and will not acknowledge or recognize jurisdictions or boundaries. That whatever we do to any part of our whatever we do to any part of our home, ultimately and inevitably, is going to affect the other side of our house, our homes. So it requires then to find a way as to how can we come together and to employ the gifts and in which we all have been given for the benefit of all. And when we use that word benefit of all, not just for the benefit of humanity. Excuse me, I got to plug in. Oh, good. We don't want to lose power at this juncture. Yeah. What was I before I interrupted myself? Well, anyway, see, so the kind of a transformative change that we need, I believe, at this juncture. We first of all, I think, have to agree and to admit that there is a great need of some kind of a transformative change. Because if we look at it presently, our actions up to date have been very much unsustainable ecologically. And we should be very, very diligent and try to extract the lessons that we need to learn if we're going to be hopes of surviving. Because I don't believe anyone is not aware of the fact that each and every one of us need clean air, clean drinking water, and a fertile soil. So does all the living entities or spirits. And in our culture, it reminds us when we use that word "amsitnogma," all our relations, in which it reminds me daily how much am I interdependent, interconnected with this natural world. And everything I do or don't do will affect the balance. And therefore, it has to be done on a daily basis, reminding ourselves what our inherent responsibilities are. That these actions of ours cannot and should not compromise the integrity of our area. Because if we do, then we will not be exercising our inherent responsibilities. And those responsibilities are, we have been given the gifts, and for those gifts to be used for the benefit of all, not just for the sake of humanity, but for the very source of life in which we all depend upon. And if we do that collectively, I think we will be ensuring that during our short stay here, we will all live a good, healthy, and a productive life. Because I don't think you need too much of an education to remind us that we need that source of life to be healthy. We need her to be healthy, our Mother Earth. Because if she is not healthy, we will suffer the consequences. So it's really inherent in us, not just to survive, but to do everything in our power to ensure that our neighbors, our brothers and sisters, our relatives, which is all of creation, is also going to be healthy. Because without a healthy biodiversity, our Mother Earth cannot be sustained. And this is where I believe now, I'm hoping anyway, that everybody is very much aware of the fact that the challenges that we are currently facing, brought on by this virus called COVID-19, And I honestly and truly believe that this virus could have literally wiped us all out. But no, it didn't. But rather, it gets us to a point or degree in which it will help us to start reflecting. And in the process of reflection, we have to see not just where we came from, but how we got here, and the expense and the harm that we have created to the very source of life in which we all depend upon. And I think that's something I believe that should resonate to each and every one of us, and try to be very mindful that not only for our survival, but also be very mindful of the future. Like in our case, that responsibility extends to the next 7 generations. And for that generation, that 7 generations in our calculation is 840 years. Because we use 1 generation to be approximately 120 years. Because why? Because we believe that's the length of time in which a living memory could be applied and it could be used. So 840 years, I do realize, is forever when it comes to human scale. But when it comes to our natural world, it's only a split second of a second. So then, that should then guide us, empower us, that we really look seriously, not just what our responsibilities are, but really what our actions will be. And to be very mindful that no actions of mine should cause a negative reaction or compromise the ecological integrity of the area. And of course, now we have to include the cleansing capacity of our system because of all the compounds and chemicals that have been injected to her, in which she cannot heal herself anymore, nor can she heal herself fast enough because the rate of extraction we have somehow allowed our forests to be clear cut and mowed, in which nothing is left for the biodiversity to be able to use to regenerate. So again, I believe the responsibility is within all of us, because it took a collective effort to get us where we are. And I believe it would also require a collective effort to fine tune and to really start reflecting of how we're going to move forward with hopes that our way of life will never be compromised. And also as well, be very mindful for the future generations, not just how they might be able to sustain themselves, but also how to learn and to appreciate nature. And I believe that should be something that could be very easily be comprehended, because if she is not healthy, if she is not productive, we're going to be affected. So through this foresight, and I believe, anyway, in my opinion, that I'm very honored that I'm here under your guidance, because I believe your denomination, or whatever, your religion, or whatever you call it, is still very much can play a major role, because people still are looking towards into your directions of how we should live in balance and harmony, love and compassion. Because if we love something, we're going to respect it. We're going to do everything in our power to protect it. So I believe wholeheartedly that love and compassion will be and is or should be our guiding principle as how we move forward. Because it's true love and compassion that we are here today to be sharing those thoughts with you. Because without love, I don't think I would have survived where I am today. So to us, love is an overarching objective of humans. And with that love, it will look upon, we will be able to look at every living thing, every living entity of it having a spirit, because it's through the spirits that will work together to bring us into this one mindset, no matter what nationality or what religion or whatever we have, will not divide us, but rather will bring us together to be much more forceful and much more empowered to reach out to each and every one of us, because we honestly believe that each and every one of us have been given certain gifts, and for those gifts to be used for the benefit of all, not just for the humanity, but for every living thing. Because it's this living entity we call Mother Earth is our very source of life. But what saddens me at this juncture, though, of course, is that the main sources of life is clean air, clean drinking water, and a fertile soil. Those sources of life do not have any protection at this point. So let's come together and see if we can come up with some kind of a declaration in which those sources of life will have some protection from the loss of man. And through that declaration, if we can do it collectively, if we can amplify our voices, those very sources of life could actually be protected. And the only area that I can see that could be done is if we can somehow include those under the Charter of Human Rights. That is our inherent right to have clean air, clean drinking water, and a fertile soil. And I believe if we can achieve that objective, I think it will translate into giving a great opportunity for this source of life to rejuvenate, to re-energize, because she's become obvious to all of us. She's sick. Air is contaminated. Water is contaminated. There's no biodiversity in the soil, because we believe you need biodiversity to generate more biodiversity. And if we have a good source of biodiversity, the very source of life will become healthy again. Air will be clean, water will be clean, and the fertile soil again will sprout the things that have been eradicated by a few for greed. So I believe the urgency should be looked at and see what must we do now, not just to ensure our survival, but also survival and the sustainability of future generations. And I believe the only denomination I'm very familiar with, of course, is Catholicism. And but sadly, I have not heard any sermon from the Catholic Church yet in which they will talk about the physical part, but rather just the spiritual aspect of who we are. And I honestly and truly believe that since my spirit is part of this creation, since my spirit is part of this universe, and I don't believe I can compromise that spirit, no matter what my physical aspect of it does. But really, I should be very much mindful how to maintain health with his physical body, so I can play a very effective role with the rest of the humanity to ensure that if we do it collectively, we will once again see that our Mother Earth will be healthy enough to keep producing the source of life in which we all depend upon. And I think this is something that I'm hoping, how crude my words may be, hopefully will somehow resonate and really ask ourselves, is there a need for a transformative change? And I believe we do. But the kind of a transformative change that's going to guide us and lead us into the future, again, has to be done collectively. So let's overlook our differences, but rather look at our differences as gifts, because we're all different in one way or the other. And those differences, I believe, can and should be used collectively to create a better future, not just for us, but also for the future generations. And that way there, I believe, we can rest assured we have done everything now. We have done everything in our power to uphold the inherent responsibilities in which we all have been given, and to use those gifts that the Creator has given us for the benefit of all. And that benefit of all is not just for the humanity, but for the very source of life in which we all depend upon. So I think more than ever, we need that collective mindset, because it's through that collective mindset that's going to create an energy that's going to amplify across this globe, in which is what is required and needed at this point. Because no matter what I do here, ultimately and inevitably affect people on the other side of our home, because air, water, and soil cannot and will not acknowledge or recognize jurisdictions, boundaries, class, or anything. It's there for us to enjoy and to respect it and to take care of it. So, and for us, it's very, 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 very easy, because I don't, when I look at the word prayer, I don't even know what that word implies, prayer. But we have a word in which it says, Muiwaskimkawi, which translates in English that we have to express our gratitude and appreciation for the gifts that we all have. And by expressing that appreciation, we honestly and truly believe the spirits that provide us this source of life will be just as pleased, and they will act and transform themselves with our spirits as one, because this is what the world really depends upon, and that is, to me, love and compassion. Because with love and compassion will come forth concern. We have words like "tetparodemnich" and "sespededemnich," which translates our actions will be one of which will be for all, for the benefit of something in which we also depend upon. And the other one, of course, implies that every action that we take from here on in, it's got to be one of which will not and cannot compromise the very essence of life in which we all depend upon. I just like to leave that at this juncture in case anybody out there might want or need clarification, not necessarily a question, but maybe an opinion.
Marion, you wanted to say something.
Yes, I do. Albert, I could listen to you forever. I love listening to you, and I thank you so much for coming tonight. I have to follow that with an apology. I want to apologize to you because I always, every week, start with a recognition of the fact that we are on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, and I didn't. And I every other week I would.
Yeah,
I also do in my thank you to you. Uh, it'll be in the mail tomorrow. We can't do this virtually, but I do want to give you a gift. And so I have your address, and that we'll let Canada Post take care of the rest. But we do appreciate so much you being here. So with that, I will